if someone can remind me about the prophet Isaiah. Just remind me about that in just a moment. As you know, as we've been going through the sorrowful mysteries, I've been showing you different aspects of the Shroud of Turin, of the alleged, supposed burial cloth of Jesus. This is a negative image of what is the shroud. This is the front side, the famous side, if you will, with the face of the man, and this is the back side. And I remember, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure, Pope Benedict said that the meditation of the Shroud of Turin is a meditation on the Passion of Christ. Something to that effect. And when you look at it, when we go the way of the cross, we can really see all of those elements of the cross. We've already seen the crown of thorns. Remember that from last week? This is the back side that I was talking about last week. I don't know if you can see from there, but way up here are all these puncture wounds, not only around the rim of the head, but also on the top. These little marks here are from the top of the head as well. And these are indications that the whole head was punctured in some way by something, if you will. We would say that that's the crown of thorns. And as you saw last week in that image, it was like a bramble bush just pushed onto his head, not this little ringlet that we typically have seen. And again, if this is a forgery, where would the forger get this idea from if all they had to model was typical images from crucifixes and paintings up to this time? I always wonder about that. You know, it's like, okay, it's a forgery. Well, fine. Whoever the forger is, they didn't do a common forgery. In other words, they went off the chart. I mean, if you look at our crucifix here, there are elements on this that do not reflect this image. The biggest difference is, where are the nails in Jesus here on this crucifix? Through the palms of the hands, right? Right here.
No.
If you look at that crucifix, it's in here. Typically, you see them in here. If you look on the shroud, they're not in his palms, they're in his wrists, which would make sense, because if you put a spike here, there's nothing but tissue and sinew here. The weight of the body could easily rip through, and the person would fall off of the cross if they did it that way. If you put a spike through the wrist, there are bones in the wrist that help hold it. And here's something more gruesome. Medically, this is worse than here, because there are more nerve endings that go through here as well. So as you go through here, it causes more pain, if you will, than if you go through the typical palm of the hand. This also explains, if you notice on this image of the shroud, Jesus has no thumbs. He's got fingers, but no thumbs. Ever notice that? No. You know why? Because whatever went through here probably deadened the nerve endings and caused this to go limp. So when he was buried, it was like this. He had no feeling in here anymore. That there are no thumbs on the shroud. Again, a forger wouldn't have thought of something like that. Okay? There are no thumbs on here. On the chest, you see these little puncture marks. You see them all over the back. Okay? This backside, down here, the hips, the thighs, the calves, all the way down to the feet. You see these little holes, puncture marks. This indicates of a whipping, a flogging, using a Roman type whip. And again, typically in our paintings and stuff, you know, we just see a little bit of blood here maybe, and everything else looks fine. Whatever happened to the person that was here, he was literally whipped from the base of the neck all the way to the ankles. And the indications are, there are whip marks that go in this direction, and there are whip marks that go in that direction, which indicates that there were 2 floggers. So one, and then another, and then one, and then another. And it just didn't center on the back. It centered all up and down the whole back and front side of this person. Again, a typical forgery wouldn't have thought of all of this. Okay, so whoever this forger is in the Middle Ages, he was good. You know, he thought about crucifying them through the wrist, which is more typical. He thought about putting a whole bramble bush on Jesus' head, not just a little ringlet. He thought about flogging him from neck to ankles. Pretty smart forger. Huh. What else? Here's something that you wouldn't have thought of either.
Chip,
yes?
Was there ever any number as to how many times he had been flogged? I guess not.
No, they can estimate the number of flog marks, and if I'm not mistaken, the total number of flog marks is 120. Wow. 120 flog marks on this body. Yes?
Does this reflect, I'm remembering the movie The Passion of Christ, the part where after they stop flogging him on the back, they flip him over and then continue on the front.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are there markings in the front?
Yes, right here on the chest. You see these? You probably can't see them from that distance in this image, but there are little puncture marks all over here of the same kind that you see on the back.
Chip, do you have a Zoom?
I would have to, let me see if I can get into the original image. Hold on. Let's see. Shroud. Let's see here. Where did I get it? No, that's the face. Where is it? That didn't take me anywhere. Let's try it again. Nope.
It's probably further down, because that's
Okay.
a long page.
Could be.
There you go.
There we
you
go.
go.
Let me see if I click on it, if I can get it to.
Can you hit control and
Mouse scroll.
yeah,
Which one? Control?
control and then
is the
just
real
move your
scroll.
there you
There we go. You see that? See these marks? They're of the same kind as here. Notice how they're all of this kind of dumbbell shape. There's like a big one here, a little one, and a little. They're all that way because it indicates the kind of whip that was most likely used. It had these little beads on them that would hit the skin and rip it off in this manner. And they're both on the front as well as the back. What else can we tell from this? Well, if we're talking about the way of the cross, we notice that here on the shoulders, you see this more in the dorsal image. You see these like lighter marks. These indicate heavy bruises or contusions, as if something was put on his shoulders. Like he was carrying something very heavy, like a cross beam of some kind. What else? The knees. There are indications that there are heavy bruises on both of these knees, which means it came in contact with something or was hit by something. The feet. It's hard to see in this particular image. Let me see if I can scan up and down. But these are blood stains that are on the soles of the feet of the man. And here's something a forger would not have thought of. We typically picture Jesus with long hair, about shoulder length, but what we don't picture him with is a pigtail. This is indicated it's a pigtail. It goes about to the middle of his back. It's a braid of some kind that goes in the back. And again, what forger would have come up with that if they were trying to depict Jesus? You know? Where did that come from? When was the last time you saw Jesus with a pigtail? Never. Never is the answer. Yet the person on this shroud has one. Where did that idea come from? Exactly. If this is a forgery, whoever did it came up with a lot of unconventional ideas. They did not follow the models of the paintings and sculptures of the time. They completely went off scale. Let me see here. This was brought up earlier. What side was Jesus punctured in? Depends on what crucifix you look like. Sometimes it's the right, sometimes it's the left. If the shroud is Jesus, he was punctured on his right side. Because there is you can't see it as well with here, but there is a blood gash that is from his side here that is on the shroud. Oh, this is another interesting part. You see this? And you see this? This is blood that comes from the wrist wounds. It indicates how it traveled on how he was put on the cross. There's a distinct travel mark. So it can give you an idea of what Jesus' final position was when he died because of how the blood traveled. Let me see. Let me get out of this. I want to show you a picture of the face. Can I click on that? No. Click. No. All right.
Control thing. Control scroll. There you go.
There we go. So let me try that. Oops. Too far. There. Okay. This is the positive image in which you can't see as many details. The negative image is the one in which you can see many details. What other details that we notice? Well, you notice one cheek seems to be more prominent than the other. It's lighter than this one. This indicates it's more swollen than the other, as if he was smacked or hit and it bruised more. Here's something that you can barely see, but I mean, I'm looking at it right here and I can somewhat see it. Follow my pointer here. You see this? There's an identical one over here. Like, what is that? Coins. Greek coins. It's the custom, a Greek custom, to bury someone with coins on the eyes. Why? So that the dead would have money to pay Charon to ferry them across the river Styx to the underworld.
Wait, okay, so if he's Jewish, why would he have Greek coins on his eyes?
Exactly my point. This indicates that whoever buried him were Hellenized Jews. They were Jews influenced by Greek philosophy at the time.
So Nicodemus and Joseph were influenced by Greeks?
It was a Greek superstition, yes. Because these coins, these circles, read in some books, you can actually read what's on them, and their indications, or it's not definitive because it's very fuzzy, but there are indications that they include the words Pontius Pilate, which indicates that that was the governor at the time that the minting of the coins was. So that gives you an idea of when they put these coins on his eyes. Yeah. It's details like that that you go, all right, I'm a medieval forger. I need to make a fake relic about Jesus' death, right? So how am I going to do it? I've never seen Jesus. All I see are my crucifixes in the churches. How am I going to do it? Well, I would create a model based on that because that's what people would expect to see, right? No one expects to see these kinds of things. No one. Yes?
Has anyone done like a three-dimensional?
Oh, yes.
Face or body?
Uh-huh. That's one of the, let's put it this way. One of the more unique qualities of this image is that it's a photographic negative. That's the one thing. We didn't even know about this until 1898, when the first pictures, photographs of the shroud were done in public. I mean, people just saw this, and they thought that was pretty, you know, oh, that's pretty remarkable. When they took pictures of it and they looked at the photographic negatives, it was like, whoa, where did all this detail come from? So again, whoever did this medieval forgery did it as a photographic negative. This is the photographic positive. This is what the positive image created this negative image on the shroud. Does that make sense? Never mind the fact that this image is not painted on. There is no paint on this shroud. None. No paints, pigments, powders,